Thank you so very much for accepting our invitation, Dr. Khalaji. Mr. Khamenei had his first Friday prayer in 8 years. What are your thoughts about it?
I think he was trying to emphasize on his previous position, which was no compromise with either domestic opponents or the foreign enemies. So we have not heard anything new from his speech today. He was trying to emphasize on Iran's strength in responding to U.S. airstrike in which General Soleimani was killed. So he was trying to highlight Iran's military capability in responding to U.S. threats, and also he was trying to downplay the importance of the Ukrainian airplane, which was downed by IRGC's missiles. So he didn't apologize for what happened, and he was somehow criticizing those who have protested against IRGC and Ayatollah Khamenei. So it was just, insisting on his uncompromising position in the past.
And what will this do to the position of Mr. Rouhani and Mr. Zarif, who are the faces in the international diplomatic world? How will that affect their position in the international community?
Look, there are some signs that Mr. Rouhani wants to open up to the West and wants to even negotiate with Mr. Trump because of the maximum pressure that is on Iran now. But we know very well that Ayatollah Khamenei is trying to block all these efforts, and he would not let them to negotiate unless he sees this pressure as existential threat for the Islamic Republic. So far, we see him reluctant to show any sign of compromise. So I don't think that even if Mr. Rouhani and Zarif want to take a different path, Ayatollah Khamenei would let them to do that.
How is it that Iran and the Islamic Republic have become like as such? Is it that the clergy corrupted the system, the Islamic Republic, or the system corrupted the clergy?
I think both ways. We have, this is a semi-authoritarian regime, which is like many other authoritarian regimes, is a combination of religious and militaristic elements, and I think both worked to create an autocratic system in which even the religion is fading away. So religion is used to just provide the legitimacy for the system and does not play that much role in the process of decision making. So the system is going to become more militaristic and using religion just for the purpose of legitimacy. And the hardcore of the regime is just military forces who are drawing the future of the country.
Dr. Shirin Ebadi has maintained that traditional Islam and traditional clerics have been under threat, most threat, from the Islamic Republic. How are they going to react? How is traditional Islam going to fight back?
I don't know what we mean by traditional Islam. The traditional clergy, they don't exist anymore. So look, it's been 40 years passed from Islamic Republic. A totally new generation has emerged. So even if we had traditional clergy, they have been sidelined in last 40 years, and they don't have that much voice. So Islamic Republic has suppressed many of them, silenced many of them, and even we had Ayatollah Shariat Madari, or even people like Ayatollah Montazeri who've been criticizing the system. They have been somehow marginalized or completely eliminated from the map. So they don't represent any real force in the society, and the clergy as establishment, as an institution, I think it's an institution which is subordinated to the Islamic Republic. They don't have any independence and autonomy, and I think they are unable to take an independent path which would serve their own interests rather than Islamic Republic.
What would be their independent path, for example?
So it's extremely dangerous to have the same destiny as Islamic Republic, because Islamic Republic anyway is in trouble. Sooner or later, you would see some big transformation in the political system in Iran, either toward a rough militaristic regime or a secular democrat system. Anyway, this system cannot endure for a long time. So it would be very dangerous to tie the destiny of the clergy to the Islamic Republic. It would be better to act like a civil institution, independent from Islamic Republic, and focus on civil service and traditional religious function of the clergy. What we see now is that the government has managed to have full control over the clerical establishment and prevent it from having its independent role in the society. So that is going to be very problematic for the future of clergy too. So I don't think that clergy is able at the moment to change the situation and challenge Islamic Republic's authority. And they continue to provide legitimacy to Islamic Republic without being able to contribute in the process of the decision making.
So, if we take it further, if once Mr. Khamenei is no longer on the scene, what will happen to the clergy in Rome and in the traditional clergy, Islamic clergy? How will they react, do you think, to a militaristic system?
I don't think that they have ability to challenge the military. If Ayatollah Khamenei dies now, I don't know, a year from now or 2 years from now, but if Ayatollah Khamenei dies tonight, I think the most likely scenario would be military taking over the power and having someone, an old ailing Ayatollah, to become supreme leader, just to hold this position ceremonially and without having real power. So I don't think that the clergy would be in a situation to change or challenge the military power, and it would just remain under the influence or under the control of IRGC.
So they have no plans to win back the hearts and minds of the people?
It's extremely difficult for them. They lost all the traditional venues or traditional mechanisms that they were using before to communicate with people. The religious network, the religious old religious system that was created by clergy, they are now somehow confiscated by the regime. So, for example, I give you an example. In the past, clergy was had all the freedom to have mosques in their hands for prayer, for communicating with people, to do preaches and so on. But now this is the government who appoints clerics for being an imam for each mosque. So all mosques are under control of the regime, not the clergy. So it's difficult for the clergy to find an independent place, independent space for itself, which could be out of government's control and use it for religious purposes. So all this religious space in the society is somehow confiscated by the government.
And there is nothing that you can see as a reform movement within the...
I see no sign of reform or, in other words, I see the government has used both coercive mechanisms and also an immense economic investment, financial investment in the clerical establishment to control the system and refashion the whole establishment in a way that functions only in the service of the government.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Khalaji, and I hope to have you in Kayhan Life again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.